Dawn on the steppe comes up like a slow explosion. Soft orange over endless fields, and the silent outline of armoured hulls tucked into tree lines like wolves before a hunt. A Russian column creeps forward, turrets searching, antennas quivering. Then a single muzzle flash punches the horizon. One shot, another. Suddenly, the head of the column is a black blossom of smoke. A second vehicle rocks, a third veers, and in that heartbeat, you understand the new geometry of this war. If a Leopard 2 can see you, a Leopard 2 can end you. That isn't bravado. It's doctrine wrapped around German steel and Ukrainian grit, now playing out in villages with names most of us can't pronounce, but nobody at the front will forget. This is the story of the Leopard 2 in Ukraine, how it arrived, what it's actually doing on the battlefield, and why Russian crews now measure distance not just in meters, but in seconds. The myth says tanks are dead. The footage says, not if you can shoot first, shoot straighter, and stay alive long enough to shoot again. Let's rewind. For months, Berlin hesitated. Then, in late January 2023, Germany greenlit exports and pledged its own company of Leopard 2A6s, finally unlocking the European Tank Club and triggering a cascade of donations. 2 months later, those 18 2A6s rolled onto Ukrainian soil, alongside a wider coalition's Leopard 2A4s and Sweden's up-armoured STRV-122s, with crews trained on NATO ranges and eyes adjusting to new thermals and new tactics. Kiev didn't just get tanks. It got an ecosystem, training syllabi, spare parts pipelines, battle damage repair plans, and ammunition that hits like a polite freight train. None of this was charity theatre. It was a bet that quality, connected, and survivable beats quantity and superstition. Meet the metal. The Leopard 2A6 is the classic apex of the Cold War beast perfected for a transparent battlefield. A 120mm Rheinmetall smoothbore L55, longer and faster than the original L/44, throwing modern rods like DM53 and DM63, with muzzle energy that turns frontal arcs into academic debates and side plates into cautionary tales. Commanders ride an independent thermal viewer. Gunner and commander share a true hunter-killer loop, and the fire control computer chews through range, wind, barrel flex, target motion, and, if you're superstitious, the grumbling of the crew's coffee thermos. If you're in a T-72 at 2 or 3 kilometers, the first hint that your day just ended is a bright dot in your thermal sight, then a hit that arrives before your brain finishes the word incoming. The gun is the sermon, the rest of the tank is the cathedral. But Ukraine didn't just get 2A6s, it also got STRV-122s, the Swedish Leopard, with extra roof and frontal protection, winterized guts, and a very Nordic sense of never dying when it's inconvenient. The STRV-122 is a Leopard 2A5 lineage with Swedish armour choices that bias for survivability against top attack threats and brutal artillery environments. On this battlefield, that matters. The crews say it, the footage shows it, and the tally of vehicles that come home smoking but repairable underlines it. Russia has hit them again and again, but those tanks have a habit of coming back with new scars and the same crew. That's not invincibility, that's design plus discipline. The tactical script is deceptively simple. In the east, Leopards live behind drones. Quadcopters and fixed wings sniff out columns, camouflaged revetments, and fleeting silhouettes in tree lines. A target folder blooms in chat apps. The nearest Leopard troop angles for a clean line of sight, keeps the hull down, and lets the thermal do the glass cutting. From 2, sometimes 3 kilometers, a Leopard will pick off the lead vehicle to freeze the column, then the trail to trap it, then prioritize turrets and troop carriers. There are confirmed cases where a single Leopard 2A4 crew in Donetsk chewed through a small Russian armoured group and left the rest of the column in a panic. Classic, kill the head, kill the tail, take the bite out of the body. It's textbook, but it looks like sorcery in 4K. Here's what the Leopard does differently than its Soviet-era opponents. First, the hunter-killer loop is brutally fast. The commander spots and slews, the gunner gets an instant stabilized solution, the round flies, the commander is already hunting the next target. On a good crew, that's a shot every few seconds. Second, the L/55's extra length isn't just marketing. It adds the velocity that drags lethality farther downrange and keeps the Leopard's first shot kill probability high, even when the target is moving and the Earth is doing a half dozen annoying things with dust and heat. Third, protection and survivability. Stowed ammo, armoured bulkheads, and blow-off panels mean a hit that would turn an autoloader carousel into a jack-in-the-box on a T-72 is just a very bad day in a Leopard, one you often drive away from. Add the Swedish variant's extra roof protection, and you have crews who believe in their machines. Confidence makes people brave. Survivability makes them bolder. Now, the honest part. The Leopard entered hell. Ukraine's 2023 push into the southern front collided with minefields measured in football fields, with Ka-52s prowling and artillery already locked. In the opening days near Mala Tokmachka, several Leopard 2 A6s were damaged or knocked out in a single bloody morning. Videos from both sides told different stories, but the common thread was obvious. Getting armoured columns through layered mines under drone-guided artillery is the hardest job in this war. Even so, many of those tanks were later recovered and repaired, a reminder that destroyed and temporarily a smoking crater aren't the same thing in a maintenance-rich army. You can argue about optics. You can't argue about crews stepping back into the same hole a month later. Recovery and repair are the unsexy backbone of Leopard's success. From the start, Ukraine and its partners set up a rescue and refit pipeline stretching into Poland, with technicians learning the quirks of German hydraulics the hard way and getting faster each month. The result? Write-offs stayed lower than the doom posts suggested, and the battlefield saw previously destroyed Leopards show up again like stubborn house cats. This is where Western kit changes the math. It's not just strong, it's maintainable, and there's an industrial tail willing to keep it breathing. The crew piece matters as much as the steel. Training ran in Germany long before the tanks showed up on the line, with Ukrainian crews cramming months of gunnery, drills, and NATO radio discipline into weeks. That paid off on the first contact. When the hunter-killer loop is muscle memory instead of a suggestion, target time shrinks, and your battlefield looks like a series of solvable problems. Pair that with new munitions on some platforms, multi-purpose programmable HE to set fuses for walls, windows, and defilade, and you turn a tank into a Swiss Army sledgehammer. Not every Leopard in Ukraine has every toy, but enough do that Russian positions learn to fear the silhouette as much as the sound. How many, from where, and who's driving them? The numbers tell a coalition story. Germany's 18 2A6s formed the tip of the spear. Portugal added 3 more 2A6s. Poland, Spain, Norway, and Canada delivered 2A4s in batches, while Sweden sent 10 STRV-122s, its best cats, not the budget litter. Ukrainian brigades integrated them differently. Some stacked 2A6s into elite assault battalions. Others used 2A4s as long-range tank destroyers, supporting Bradleys and drones. When the Leopard works as part of a combined arms kill chain, Russian armor dies quickly. When it's forced to play minesweeper under kamikaze drones, even the best tank bleeds. Both realities live in the same week. So, does the Leopard 2 obliterate Russian tanks? On the days when drones are abundant, sappers are clever, and the guns are fed, yes, in a way that makes enemy platoon leaders rethink geometry. There's credible footage of Leopard crews killing multiple Russian vehicles in single actions, and Ukrainian soldiers praising the platform's first shot precision past 3 kilometers. You don't need theater if the tape is good. On the bad days, heavy mines, glide bomb weather, and Ka-52s snooping, Leopards do what professional tanks do. They survive, they pull back, and they come again with a plan that fits the ground. The story across 2023 to 2025 is not invincible tank, it's reliable killer. For the men inside, that difference is life. Let's talk about the enemy. Russian tank design optimized for volume and a smaller crew count, with autoloaders sitting beside ammunition like a campfire next to a gas can. In open fields, that trade-off bites. The jack-in-the-box effect isn't a meme, it's physics meeting storage choices. Against long rod penetrators from an L/55, turrets don't just fail, they leave. Pair that with Russian attempts to cope cages, turtle armor, ad hoc slat, and you get silhouettes that are taller, clumsier, and still vulnerable from the side, the rear, and increasingly from above, courtesy of FPV drones. When Ukraine puts a Leopard overwatching a drone-mapped kill zone, Russian commanders face a closed-form math problem: push into a buzzsaw or sit and die by artillery. If that sounds grim, it's because it is. Maneuver wants room, the Leopard denies it. A note on losses, because honesty is oxygen. Ukraine has lost Leopard 2s, including 2 A6s and 2 A4s, with a non-trivial number damaged, abandoned, or captured across 2 years of brutal fighting. Some were repairable, some weren't. Sweden's Strv-122s, despite their reputation for being stubborn, have taken hits and been photographed with scars, damage, and yes, occasionally on trailers painted the wrong color. None of this disproves their value. It proves they were used where real tanks belong, in contact. The battlefield's verdict is pragmatic. Leopards die when they're misused or outmatched by conditions. They kill when the conditions are made for them. More and more of Ukraine's commanders are learning to make those conditions. Here's the quiet revolution the Leopard helped spark. Discipline about combined arms at battalion scale. Drone spot, sappers breach, Bradleys or IFVs clear, Leopards finish. When that choreography sinks, you get the clips everyone remembers. The convoy that vanished, the assault that stalled and then melted, the ridge that went from Russian to Ukrainian in a single magazine. This is where Western hardware shifts culture. If a tank can be trusted to hit exactly what it's told to hit, infantry risk shrinks and tempo rises. That's how you make progress on a front that punishes impatience like a Greek god. Strategy? The Leopard story bleeds into politics. Berlin's decision unlocked not just tanks, but the principle that quality armor would flow east if Kyiv could use it. Once those 2 A6s and 2 A4s were on the step, arguments about escalation faded into arguments about spare parts and training slots, which is code for normalization. That matters because the war is as much production as it is destruction. Each Leopard that returns from repair instead of being written off is a minor industrial miracle. Each depot that learns to swap a power pack faster is a tactical accelerant. Wars are won by logistics masquerading as grit. The Leopard is Germany's contribution to that illusion. Leopard crews call their gun the delete key, which is unfair to delete keys. Russian drone operators have started naming every tree line Leopard Alley. This is cruel slander. Sometimes it's a field. The Leopard's reverse speed is so good that Ukrainian drivers joke that they can withdraw offensively. If humor sounds out of place, remember that morale isn't decoration, it's armor you can't weld. Where does this go? Newer Leopard variants, like the 2A8, are entering European orders. But for Ukraine, the critical path is keeping existing fleets lethal: barrels, optics, spare tracks, and ammo, while doubling down on training and the drone tank handshake that sets up clean shots. Every month that recovery hubs improve, every class that graduates more gunners who can read thermals like a second language, the more the Leopard's kill chain tightens. Russia can disperse, it can cage, it can stack ERA until the hull looks like a hedgehog, but none of that changes the basic equation. At 2 kilometers, under a hunter-killer crew, a Leopard rings targets like a bell. So yes, on the days that count, Germany's Leopards are obliterating Russian armor. Not by magic, not by myth, but by sight over sight, round over round, crew over crew. They're doing it from tree lines with mud up to the sponsons and coffee gone cold, with drone pilots whispering bearings and sappers swearing at mines. They're doing it in a war that punishes mistakes and applauds persistence. If you want to know whether tanks still matter, ask the crews in Ukrainian brigades who watch Russian columns freeze when the first Leopard shot lands. Ask the Russian platoon leaders weighing a kilometer of open ground with a cat watching. Ask the logisticians who turn write-offs into runners. The answers won't be poetic, they'll be practical, and that's why they're winning. In the end, the Leopard 2 in Ukraine isn't a symbol, it's a tool. It works because crews learned it fast, partners kept it fed, and commanders use it in a script that fits the battlefield we actually have, not the one we wish we had. Will the video clips keep coming? As long as the thermals light and the barrels stay true, yes. The Steppe will keep offering up columns, and the Leopard will keep writing its signature at the bottom of the shot. The question isn't whether the tank is back. It never left. The question is how many clean shots Ukraine can buy, how many crews it can keep alive, and how fast the kill chain can run. Because out there on a cold morning, when the horizon flashes and a column stops moving, the only thing anyone cares about is whether the next round lands first.